Okay, so I did my project on blended learning within the co-teaching classroom, and we have done a little bit of this last year.
It's lighting up. It's unbelievable.
Good. It's good. It's got a solid green.
It's worked all day.
Okay.
There you go.
Alright, so looking into this, blended learning kind of became one of the new buzzwords, and it's not a completely flipped classroom, but blended learning is just incorporating that technology with traditional face-to-face instruction within the classroom. So it may be supplemented by videos, and it allows you to differentiate your instruction. And also provide like supplemental things and then extension activities for your students. So it can be used through iPods, and then researchers are examining still the effects of blended learning versus the traditional model. Some of it shows that the achievement scores do go up, and then some of it shows that there's no change at all. Incorporating blended learning in your classroom, you have to increase the technology use, it increases student independence, and it helps to differentiate the lessons. So the purpose of this is just there's been increased push for technology, and a lot of the schools are going to the one-to-one technology. So it's a kid to computer one-to-one ratio. And then I also want to look at this because our district is looking to go to this initiative as well. So some information about blended learning. It's kind of talking about it's different than flipped classrooms. When there's a flipped classroom, it's more student-driven, and a lot of it is at home, and so they may be able to complete those assignments at home versus blended learning, a lot of it is done within the classroom. So it's not necessarily, so that's where the difference comes into play. Alright, some of the problems with blended learning and with flipped classroom is internet issues. Is it going to be always reliable? Are the videos going to work? What if students are using different devices, so versus an iPod or a computer? Because a lot of like Adobe's or different video players may not work. So that can be an issue with you doing that. And a lot of times they're too slow, or logging onto devices can cause problems in wait time, which can increase behavior issues. Another obstacle is managing the time when not using the technology. So this one article I read talked about, since you have limited time that you're using face-to-face, because you're doing half face-to-face instruction and half independent, that they're more reluctant to use like guest speakers or additional time for like the library trips and things like that. So the questions I looked at were, how does blended learning impact student understanding of content and achievement? And then what are teachers' perceptions of blended learning? So the research for me was a good choice because I'm always looking for my students to be more independent, and then how to help differentiate and support those kids with technology, especially with the way of the future going towards that. And I think that would help my students out the most. And then I also wanted to look at whether that would increase student achievement and student engagement. So looking at the first one, does it impact student achievement? So I talked about the students as the 7th grade students in a co-teaching classroom, and they're here at Walnut Lake, and incorporation of regular education students and special education students receive free lunch and live around Lake. What I looked at was 3 assessments and scored on short answer rubric 0 to 2, and then the extended response 0 to 4. Special education students will be provided their accommodations when they were given the assessments. This is the data, and the blue is students that were in traditional model, and then the green is blended. So versus, you can see the achievement scales. Next steps look at this, average the scores that is higher with the blended learning as compared to the other classes. And their actual growth is higher when the technology was incorporated into the class. And I like to look at the continued use of this and see the impact of non-co-teaching classes to see if the difference versus with special education students or not. The next question is our teachers' perceptions. I looked at the teachers here at Walnut Lake. It's cleared through a survey and then through discussions that's how I got my data. Blended learning requires technology and structure. Some of the questions is, how can these hurdles be accomplished for schools that do not have these added resources? So if they don't have the money, how are they going to be able to do this, incorporate into their class? Especially for like training and professional development, if you don't have the money to do it, how are you going to be able to do it in your room? And then So I found some different ways for funding for the technology and allowing time management within, if the schools and districts can allow time for that. So these are some of the questions that were asked. Do you think you need more professional development about blended learning? Do you think it increases student engagement and achievement? And then do you think blended learning is the future in education? The majority of them lean more towards blended learning. Based on things I've learned, I think we need more research on it and then more training as a staff as a whole. And then I want to see like the data, the one-to-one schools versus like just blended learning and how that data looks. I learned a lot about looking at multiple data points when looking at this and averaging in those. And then I found like new techniques and new programs to use with technology. So I found a lot of different more programs that you could use to incorporate this on your websites. Any questions?